Thank you, Jeff, from a fine collector, for helping give me some tips on making my thumbnails better. So I downloaded Canvas to my computer and used it for the first time today. So hopefully you noticed the thumbnail, and I really appreciate your advice at the YouTube get together. Hi, I'm Brad, Brad's Vintage Collection, and this is my National Pickups video. Before I get into the pickups though, I had a really great time. Wednesday night we had the get together at Lowe's. Thank you, John and Rick's Vintage Oddball Cards for putting that together. Met so many people that I haven't met before, met so many friends again that I had, and really had a great time. I'm not going to mention individual people because I know I'll forget some and then I'll feel really guilty and really bad all week. But if I talk to you, I enjoy talking to you. If I met you for the first time, it was a thrill to meet you. And if we met at Strongsville or last year's National, it was great talking to you again. But I really had a great time on Wednesday. Stayed till the end Wednesday night, and then on Thursday at the YouTube get together again, stayed till the end. Had lengthy conversations with Petty, with Jason and Joe Wood Collector, and a late night argument with Mangini about baseball. But I did talk to a ton of people, saw their pickups, showed my pickups, and really had a blast. So the National is so much more fun since I've started a channel and met so many hobby friends. And if you are thinking of doing that, I totally encourage you to do it. It really makes things more fun. So my National focus, I didn't buy anything pre-war. I bought everything in my wheelhouse era, which is the Bowman Topps era. My goal is to complete all of the cards. And when I told people that at the National, they told me I was going after the Moynihan, which I guess is true. So I am going after the Moynihan or the Chris from Missouri, but more the Moynihan because I'm including Maltese, managers, and leader cards. So I had a huge National. I picked up 44 cards I needed, plus a surprise that I'll show on a separate video. So without further ado, let's look at some cards. So the first pickup I had was this 1976 Hank Aaron record breaker, and I actually have 3 76 sets, but none of them had a decent Aaron, so that's been on kind of my want list. And so picked up the 76 Topps Aaron, and super excited to get that one. This one's well centered, which none of mine are, and it has a really clean image and important record. Most runs batted in lifetime, 2262. So really cool to add this one. Picked up 4 1972 Topps, the Cepeda, the Jim Hunter, the Reggie Jackson, and the Burt Blyleven. And 72 Topps is one of the years I don't have a set, so I'm working on them one at a time. And getting 4 of them for my collection was really fun. There were some dealers that had nice ones. I think most of these were from the dealer Natex Investments, who I buy from every National. They always have a great inventory and great cards, and you know they were priced fairly because when I went to their table on Saturday, their tables were absolutely full on Wednesday night, and they were down to a smattering of cards by Saturday. So was lucky to pick these up. I think all 4 of them were from Natex, so I'm glad I bought some cards on Wednesday night. Next card was a Saturday pickup, and this was from one of the newer dealers upstairs. Picked up a 1971 O-Pee-Chee Hank Aaron. This one is an X-Mint 6, but anytime I show an O-Pee-Chee, I have to show the back, so that this works on my 71 O-Pee-Chee run. And then I picked up 3 1970 Topps cards, the Tony Perez, the Willie Stargell, and the Yaz All-Star. And the 70 All-Stars are actually really tough. They have a similar design to 61, but they're actually much tougher to find in nice condition than 61. So I was really excited to see this Yaz. And these were picked up at 3 different dealers throughout the show. So one of them was from Natex, and 2 of them were from dealers that I only bought 1 card. So weighing in on the 70s, the 7 cards, I'm down to 149 cards left from the 70s Hall of Fame decade. I'm 78.5% complete. And picking up that 171 O-Pee-Chee made my Hall of Fame run go from 51% complete to 53% complete. So really excited to add those 70s cards and get down to 150 cards in that decade. Moving on to the 1960s, 1969 Lou Brock. This was bought from Polo Grounds. which is a dealer I've been buying from years and years. They were my favorite dealer back in the raw collecting days. He had really, really nice cards, and he was probably the last dealer to go to graded, and I resisted grading for a while, so I bought a lot of cards from Polo Grounds. My last few big shows before I went into graded cards. So it's always good to see what he has. It's the only card I picked up at his table, but it's a 69 Brock. This card's impossible to find centering. And the 8s and 7s are very, very expensive, and they're not centered any better than the 6. So I was very happy to find this card with this centering. It's almost as good as you get in the 69 Brock. It's one of the hardest cards to find centered, so I'm excited to add this one. Moving on, 1967 Topps. I added 2 cards. I added one of the best leader cards Topps ever had, 3 Hall of Famers, the National League 1966 RBI leaders with Aaron, Clemente, and Allen. And then I picked up the Hoyt Wilhelm card, which is one I didn't have, and it's a nice image of Wilhelm. I really like this one, and I really was excited to see this one and really liked how this card was centered, and that's why I chose it. 66, I only picked up 1 card, but it's a biggie. I've been looking for the right Jenkins rookie for seemingly ever. It's really not an easy card to find centered, and this one was perfectly centered, had a really, really bright image, and I'm really excited to add this one. It's centered nice, 4 sharp corners, bright image. It does have one little print flaw in the upper right next to Bill Sorrell, but I'll take it. I've been looking for this card for years and years, and this is the closest to perfect I found, and this one was the right one. And this was another one bought from one of the newer dealers upstairs, so was able to pick up this card, and they told me it was the first vintage card they sold. They had a whole case of vintage, and they had actually moved it to the back of their table because no one was looking at them. So I was excited to still have this one on Saturday and pick up that card. 1965 was from 2 different dealers. The left 3 were from Natex, again, the leaders cards and the Spawn, and the right one was actually from Howard, and I picked up Yastrzemski, and he actually dealt a little bit of price with me, which is something that he often doesn't do. So I don't know if he'd had this card for a while or what, but I was excited to get it. So the leader cards, you've got the 64 American League RBI leaders with Brooks Robinson, Mickey Mantle, and Harmon Killebrew, so 3 of the 4 Hall of Famers. The RBI leaders with Mays, Santo, and Boyer, and I think Boyer should be a Hall of Famer. 2 of them are, and I think that one hopefully someday will be a card with 3 Hall of Famers. Really like the centering on both these leader cards, and the image is really, really bright on the American League RBI leaders. And then the 65 Spawn, where he's a pitching coach, but it has his final stat, so it's kind of cool to have his card with his final stats. I consider 64 his last card, but maybe the 65 really is. I don't know. You can argue either way since he was a coach at this time. And then I picked up the 65 Yaz, which is an interesting shot of him kind of looking like he's pretending to field a fly ball, but I don't think he'd win a Best Actor award with kind of the pose he has here. But I do find it interesting. It's different than other cards, and anything that's different I kind of like. So I was happy to pick up this Yaz. Next, 1964 Topps, I picked up 2 cards, and they both happen to be an SGC. They were from the same dealer. These are the only 2 cards I picked up from that dealer. I don't know the dealer's name, but I was able to get the Mini Minnow, so I do need to use some Goo Gone and clean up the price tag on this one. And then the Louis Aparicio card, and both of these were just centered so nicely, had really sharp picture, and I thought these were gorgeous cards worthy of my collection, and was really excited to pick up both of these that I need. And they're a little bit higher number cards, with number 538 and number 540, and a lot of the ones I need in 64 happen to be from the higher number series. Next is one of the biggest cards I got, the 63 Hank Aaron. I was really, really happy to find this one. It just has gorgeous color. There's no chipping at all in the bottom corners, and the green like is so prevalent for 63 Topps. And I happened to buy another 63 Topps, which is a Whitey Ford. I bought this both of these were the only cards I bought from dealers. I don't know the name of either. But the Aaron was one of the biggest cards I bought at the show. And then the Ford, I have just a photograph and not a scan because that was dropped off at PSA for a reslab. You can see there's a pretty big scratch on the holder between the R and the D going all the way down to the bottom, and I actually got them to take off the $35 it would cost me to reholder this card. and I was dropping off some other reholders at the National anyway, so I got this Ford reholdered. So I don't have this one in hand, and maybe a few months before I do, but was super stoked to have these two cards. Next up, 62, and I added 3 of the Hall of Fame pitchers, and I want to thank Leighton, Shelton, and Just Collect. They were giving away $100 an hour at the National, and I happened to win one of those $100 prizes. And when he announced it on his YouTube channel, he asked what you'd buy if you won the $100, and I told him I would buy a 60s Hall of Famer that's in really nice shape of a pitcher, because the pitchers are generally underpriced. Went back to Leighton and showed him the Robin Roberts card that I picked up, and I really was happy to get this one. Just really clean borders, and all 3 of these have very clean borders and are really strong 62s, and 3 of the Hall of Fame pitchers from the year that I needed, and Roberts, Drysdale, and Wilhelm. I think the Wilhelm is the strongest of the 3, and it's one of my nicest 62 cards. But all 3 of these really, really look great, and I'm excited to add all 3 of them. Next up, 61 Topps, and this was a set that I had complete before, and at Strongsville I did some downgrades. So this 61 Berra I sold for, I believe, $3,300 cash, my 9, and then I replaced it for $280 cash at the National with a 7.5. So that's a trade I'd make any day, and I'm really starting to downgrade some of my 9s. The other card I bought from a dealer I buy a ton of my cards for, I'm blanking on the name, but Matt, who was on Showcase Showdown showing off his great 56 set with Mike and Chris, is the person I always talk to there. He doesn't work for that card dealer except at the National, but always talk to Matt, always buy my cards through Matt. And they had a few set breaks, one of them being a 61 Topps. Unfortunately, the other ones I needed were already gone by the time I got to their table on Thursday. But this Banks was still there, and this is going to be a downgrade. I have a 9, and this 8 is perfectly centered and beautiful and looks probably better or exactly the same as my 9. I haven't looked at them side by side yet, but I'm going to downgrade the 9 and keep this 8 in my collection. Next is 1960 Topps. I was only able to pick up one of those, and it's Hoyt Wilhelm. This one's a really, really tough card to find centered, and it usually has a lot of black snow in the red behind Wilhelm on the smaller picture, and this has neither of those issues. It's a little bit off center right to left, but it's as good as centering as I found on this card. So I'm really happy to pick up the Wilhelm. I'm closing in on finishing the 1960 set. So with that, in the 1960s, I had bought 17 cards that I needed, plus the one downgrade of the Banks, and it increased what I have from 63.2% of the 60s Hall of Famers to 65.6%. So really cool to knock off another 2% of 60s Hall of Famers. And I really did try to focus on the non-GOATs at this National, because when I looked at the prices going up over the last year, the GOATs had really, really climbed, but the non-GOATs had stayed pretty steady. So I tried to focus on getting as many of those Hall of Famers that I need as I could, and picked up a nice stack from the 1960s. Moving into the 1950s, we've got 1959, and I bought a lot of 1959 cards, and that was from the dealer that Matt was working for. They had a 1959 graded set break, and I was able to get there before someone had picked through it as much as they had the 61. So I picked up the Destruction Crew, which is one of them I needed for my multi-set and for my 50s Hall of Fame run. I picked up the Duke Snider, Enos Slaughter, Gil Hodges, Dick Williams, Robin Roberts, Ed Matthews, Red Schoendienst, and Nellie Fox. So just on the 59 set, picking up these 9 cards, I went from 59% complete to 73% complete, and there's 66 cards in this set. And I've got kind of a funny story on the Nellie Fox. I had bought this in an 8 along with all the other ones, and then I went to a table about an hour later, and they had this Nellie Fox in a 7.5, and the 7.5 was a nicer card than the 8, and I knew that every time for the rest of my life when I looked at that Nellie Fox All-Star card, I would be like, oh man, I could have had that nicer one. So I actually took out my 8, and I asked the dealer if he would trade, if I could trade the 8 for his 7.5 and $10. And he looked at me puzzled, and he's like, well, the 7.5's a nicer card. I'm like, yeah, that's why I want to do it. He's like, but I'm sure I'll get more for the 8. So he's like, I'll do that. And I thanked him. He's like, would you have done it without the $10? And I'm like, maybe. But I just wanted to feel like I got something for downgrading. So I picked up $10 and downgraded to this beautiful, beautiful Nellie Fox All-Star, and I guess it's just proof that I buy the card, not the holder. The fact that I would have been very upset not having the nicer of the two Nellie Foxes if I hadn't made that trade. 1958 was another one that dealer that Matt was working for had a set break, and they had a 58 set break, and I was able to pick up two of the cards that I needed for 58, the Minnie Minoso and the Whitey Herzog, and both of these I was really happy with the clean background and the centering, and the Herzog is one that you don't really find graded very often, and I think I paid, it was stickered at $50, and with all the cards I bought, I probably paid about $40 or maybe $45 for the Herzog. So to get a Hall of Famer from 1958 for under $50 and an 8 is just kind of crazy to me, and it just kind of shows that while the GOATs have gone up quite a bit, some of the Hall of Famers have gone up a lot less over the last 2 years, and that's where I concentrated my dollars, like I said, because I think if the market does correct, I don't think there'll be much correction on these. And with everybody consolidating, these have gotten harder and harder to find, and I found more at this National than I had in a long time of some of the lesser tier Hall of Famers, and I think it's simply because with the prices where they are today, I think some of the dealers had trouble filling their cases with GOATs. I think last year when I went, you'd see a case with just Mays, Clemente, Mantle, Aaron, Koufax, maybe some Gibson cards, and that would be all they had at their table. Now they had, again, a nice selection, cross-selection of Hall of Famers at a lot of the tables, and I was able to pick up a lot more of the cards I've been looking for, and the type of cards that I really enjoy collecting, not breaking the bank, but adding cards to each of the years in the Topps Bowman era. Next, 57, this is one of the big cards I got, and also the nicest condition card I got. So the Ted Williams, I really fell in love with this card. The image and the color is just as good as it gets, and I actually tried to negotiate on this card and ended up doing a flip for $50. I never win flips, and I actually won that flip, so I got the price that I wanted. He took some off the sticker, but the last $50 he wanted to flip for. This one has also been turned into PSA to be reholdered. I think you can probably see that there's a scan going from kind of his arm upward at an angle from his left arm, his front arm up angle that kind of bothered me. So I did get this one reholdered. And then this red Schoendienst I bought from a dealer, and I think this might have been the only card I bought from him because he didn't happen to have a lot of cards that I needed. But he has a client that's trying to get every set, every top set in all PSA 9s, and as he gets a 9, he downgrades and he consigns them to this dealer. And so this red Schoendienst, which was the nicest condition card I bought, and probably my nicest 57 in my collection, was his cast off when he got a 9, and I find it hard to believe the 9 looks better. This image is just crystal clear, and the centering's perfect, and I was really, really excited to find this one. So being able to add this one to my collection was super exciting. I don't know this dealer's name either, but I definitely, when I look where he was on the map and write him down and go to him. Wednesday night, I've got 3 dealers I'm going to go to right away next year at the National, and this will be one of them to see how this collector downgraded and if I could pick up any of his nice scraps like this Schoendienst card. Next is 55 Bowman, and this is my one upgrade. And 55 Bowman was the first Hall of Fame run I completed. It's my favorite set because it was my dad's favorite set as a kid. Love the brown borders. I know this is a love or hate 'em set. And this Hubbard is actually the toughest card of the Hall of Famers in the set. There's no 9s. I think there's 28 PSA 8s. The 8s never come up for sale, and I was able to get this one from an auction house that was, they had a case, Brockelman Auctions had a case of cards that were going in their next auction unless you paid X price, and I was willing to pay X price on this card. I have it in a 7, tried to get an 8, and one hadn't been for sale for like 3 years, and I got in a bidding war and I stopped with somebody, and I haven't seen an 8 since, and kind of regretted not getting that one. So Cal Hubbard is an interesting person. He's the only person in both the Football and Baseball Hall of Fame. He was the head of officiating for the NFL. And then during the baseball season, then he was an umpire. So he was an umpire for MLB and the head of officiating for the NFL, and eventually became the head of umpires for Major League Baseball. And he was such a good official in both sports that he's in the Hall of Fame for both sports. So the only individual in the Baseball and Football Hall of Fame, and this 55 Bowman is his only card. So for that reason, I think he's pretty collected. He's an answer to a trivia question, has a very interesting career, and I couldn't have been happier and more surprised to see this one at the National. Next is the 53 Topps, and this is the other one I bought from Brockelman. This one was going to be in their next auction, and you can see that there's a white spot under Spawn's eye. It's obvious that is like a piece of lint that's in the plastic. It's not on the card. I can see it between, and I can kind of get it to move a little bit. So I really like the image on this one. I like the centering. I like the nice clean black on the bottom. 53 Topps was one of the years that I barely had. I barely had 52 Topps. I barely had 48 Bowman. And so I've been really, and 53 Topps was the third year I barely had anything, but over the last 3 years I picked up a fair amount of 53s, and I have a pretty nice representative collection now. And picking up this Spawn was super exciting for me. Next is a 53 Bowman color, and I'm getting fairly close to completing the Hall of Fame run on this one as well. Picking up the Slaughter, I've always loved this image with the bats. Finding it with pretty nice centering for this card and a really clean image is something hard to do. There was someone with a 53 Bowman set break, and of the ones I needed, this was the only one I really liked, and so really excited to pick up the Slaughter. Wished that a few of the other ones that I needed were more centered. They still had most of them when I found this table on Thursday. This was the one card I bought from that table, but they were breaking up a 53 Bowman color set, and I think they were all in 7, 8s, 8.5s, and 9s. There was one of the cards I needed that was beautiful in a 9, but I'm not paying up for 9. So was excited to get the one Slaughter card to add to my 53 Bowmans. And then the last card is probably my favorite one I picked up at the National, and shout out to Mike Moynihan, Baseball Collector. He had a VR last year where he asked us to talk about the 10 cards we would realistically get someday, our top 10. And this card was in my top 10, and I had never really thought of these are the 10 cards I really want to get someday and why until I did this video. A really huge fan of Campanella. I think he's underrated. I think his MVPs are unsurpassed. I think his story is a great one of his having the accident and keeping a positive attitude and still being a joy to be around from all accounts, and really a great player, an underrated player. I love catchers. I love Campanella, and getting his rookie card has always been kind of a dream of mine. So picking one up that is centered like this, really clean image, really sharp picture. I was ecstatic to see this. I saw this on Wednesday night and didn't buy it until Saturday, and was happy it was still there. This was also bought by Howard Chasser, a few of my favorite things, and he did come off a little bit on the price on this one too. So I made 2 deals with Howard. Not always easy to do. I've bought from him in the past, but it's been a few years, so was excited to buy from him again, and I really like this card, and super proud to own it and super excited. So as you know, I'm excited to add everything to my collection, and this shows all of the individual pickups, all 44 cards. I've got 2 that I'll downgrade. The 59 Hodges and the 51 Banks All-Star. One that I upgraded, the 55 Bowman. And then I've got one my favorite pickup from the National I still have to show off, and it's a surprise. It's something I didn't go to the National thinking I would buy, and I'm super excited. I think I bored every single person at the YouTube get-togethers by showing them this pickup, and I will show it to you on my next video. So if you got to this point, I really appreciate you watching. I appreciate you listening to me share my National pickups with you. And remember, if you're not excited to add it to your collection, you bought the wrong card. I'm Brad's Vintage Collection. Thanks so much for watching.